The change from what we have done over here in the last training was a focus on conscious embodiment, obviously with a lot of coaches. Since then, there's been a training in California, a training in Boston, both organised by yourself, and a move now towards a refocus on leadership embodiment and using this in a coaching one-to-one and small group setup. Within business, slightly more than the larger scale personal development workshops. So tell us all about it, please.
Yay, thank you. Thanks for the lead in. So yeah, I thought I would speak a little bit about what has been evolving in the last 2 to 3 years in the trainings, and a little bit about our intention and why we're doing what we're doing. And then also open it up for any questions from any of you around the trainings or why we're making these changes. So what started to happen, especially in the last few years, are we were getting a lot of coaches, facilitators, therapists who were coming through the program. And it felt like many of them were wanting to use these tools to work with individuals coaching or small groups and presenting the work. So that being said, the last 2 trainings here in California and a Boston training that just kicked off this last November, we started to refocus from specifically offering conscious embodiment as a level 1 course and covering all that material in the span of a 2-day level 1 course, shifting it to giving information about how you would use the practices for one-on-one coaching as well. So, that being said, we started to adjust the program and started to introduce the different teaching styles, and also started to integrate a lot more clarity around how we help facilitate the program learning. So I investigated a lot of the other coaching and training programs and got a feel for how it is that they lead their trainings. And I incorporated a lot of their pieces that felt like they would be of great value. So I feel like now we've really developed the program to be very comprehensive, very cohesive, and it really leaves the participants with a fantastic offering of how to share an embodiment coaching piece or take groups through embodiment practices as a presenter. So we've created a fantastic training binder that you get to have access to that has kind of all the wealth and knowledge that Wendy has attained over all these years of doing and sharing the practices, but also now leading teacher trainings of how to utilize this work, best integrate it for self-development practice individually, and then also sharing the work. So there's a lot of great support, tools, information around how to do that in the binder. There's our manual that's now grown to 100. Is it 100 pages now, I believe? From, just the beginnings of this work. And we've gotten feedback that people feel that the training has become just a very valuable and useful tool and is really well done as far as the training offering. And when you are through the training, you really feel like you have a body of work that you can share. So I'm really excited about that because my intention in the last few years has been to help make this work more accessible and more available globally around the world. And I know Wendy is such a magnetic, amazing teacher, but I really see this model as a standalone product, that it has such great value that anyone that really likes the work and that it's touched them can learn how to teach this work and share it and really make it a valuable offering all on its own. So for me, the more that we can support and train people to share it, the more the offering will expand and spread and become more available. So that's been a lot of my impetus around wanting to uplift this training and make it more available and accessible, is also to get this work more out there and to empower people to share it. I just had a meeting recently with a good friend of mine, and she's a leadership organizational development person and a coach, a high-level executive coach. And we talked about what are people asking for from their coaches and presentation programs. And we all kind of shared our experience, and the things that came out of that, the like top things were people are interested in leadership presence. And in the past that's been kind of woo-woo talk, and now it's really valid, and people understand that being smart enough, having all the right tools is great, but there's a next piece as you develop yourself as a leader, and that this sense of leadership presence, what that is and how we develop it, is a very important piece. The other two things that came up universally is the ability to speak up and the idea of being able to listen. So speaking up and creating influence in an organization, and also about being able to listen in conversations. So speaking up was a big thing with influence, and dealing with difficult conversations. Being able to work skillfully as a leader with difficult conversations and listen and take feedback. So with those three things so up for people, we feel like the offering that this leadership embodiment piece has been honed into really speaks to all those in the practices. The leadership presence for me is really covered by the centering work, just the core practice of being able to expand and be inclusive, sending that message we're in it together. The being skillful in difficult conversations, we have a couple practices for. The advocating listening, being able to advocate, speak up, and then also receive and listen. And also the entering and including practice, where you enter in and see things from a different perspective. And then the being able to speak up and create influence. We have a really strong offering around the advocating shape and the inclusivity of the triangle and being able to be supported. So it was really wonderful for me to see how naturally the pieces that came up around what people are looking for were really covered in many ways in this work. And as we know, all of us that have done some of these practices, we really come at it from a very specific place, which is we're interested in the physical and energetic makeup of how we organize ourselves. So we don't feel like we're taking away from any other model of coaching or facilitation, but that we are just adding this very kind of important and often missed embodiment piece of how we organize our physical and energetic systems to be more skillful. So I'm really excited about it. It's been kind of my baby for the past 3 years of really wanting to take this to the next level and offer the people that want to share this work everything we can to support and empower you all. So that's been a little bit of the change of focus, and I'd be curious to open the floor and see if there's any comments or questions or something that I can explain or clarify.
Where did the idea come from to merge the two elements? I'm just curious. Where did that first, and what was the situation that really, you know, got you and Wendy to really think about that? I'm just curious.
You know, I've been following, like many, I think, people that find Wendy, I've been following her around like a puppy dog for about 12 years now, trying to soak up as much learning as possible, as much as I could. And, you know, our joke about in this work, we always say, you know, it's hard to see ourselves because we're so close in. And I feel like one of the gifts I've been able to offer to this organization and to Wendy and this work is that Wendy often talks about she doesn't experience how we see this work. She just, things come through her. And she's an amazing teacher and facilitator that way, but she doesn't actually have an experience of what she's done. And so being on the outside of that, I have for years been seeing her continuing to create structure and beautiful presentations and material. And I'm very visual, so I've seen it. And I've created this whole idea of, oh, these are programs. And Wendy never saw that. Every time she went, she always felt like she was making it up anew. But I saw how these were being created. And I realized about 5 or 6 years ago, when it was really taking off in business, that there was really something here. And so I started to track it, is basically what happened. And then I showed it to her and said, hey, you have this really amazing offering you've been using. And she was kind of going, what are you talking about? I just show up and share. So part of it was bringing it to the forefront and acknowledging it. And then the people around us saying, yes, see, we want that. We want to know more about that. We want to utilize it. So that's, and then my own personal drive that my worry that Wendy's so intrinsic to this work and everyone sees it as Wendy's work, that if Wendy starts to go away, this work will go away. So for me, it was really clear, having been around it for all these years, that it is a standalone model. And any one of you can take it, learn it, and share it exquisitely. And it will be an amazing gift and offering. So that being said, I saw it as an avenue to start to create form around it as an individual offering of its own that isn't called Wendy Palmer's work, but is actually called Leadership Embodiment, and it's a standalone model that Sarah, Matthew, Oliver, Paul, Tiphani can take, offer, and be skillful facilitators at offering a valuable practice. So that's kind of where it bubbled up from, and I really saw the need, and I saw the value, and I just put them together and kind of gung-ho went out to the world to make it happen.